Now, in a world full of everyday stress, learning ways to take care of our minds is absolutely essential. Whether you're looking to handle your emotions better or simply to feel more positive and energetic, we have some advice for you.
Now, psychologist and author Susannah Healy has penned the book The 7-Day Soul, which provides clear steps to think yourself happy. Good morning, Susannah. You're very welcome.
Hi,
Thanks for having me.
This is a different book in terms of, as Anna was saying, there are a myriad of books about self-help. This takes a different angle at it. You might tell us how and why.
Yeah, I think it does. You're right, because there's so many books on working on the self, and I do talk about working on the self, but from the outwards in to some extent, because what I say is that there's an awful lot being said about rights, and rightly so, but we also have lots of responsibility. We have responsibilities to the world, and that makes our life very meaningful, because what we do matters in the world, and that's brilliant. So what I talk about is self-transcendence. In other words, working in the service of others and the world, for the betterment of ourselves as well as the world. So it's kind of working outwards, and that'll make you happier as well.
Do unto others, ultimately, and making yourself feel better as a result. Yeah. So the book is based on 7 pillars, and you might talk us through those. The first being generosity, and it might mean being generous to somebody else in a very obvious day-to-day situation. Yeah,
what I say is I talk about finding meaning in the mundane. So in other words, it's not about having to go to a yoga class or to go to somewhere, whatever you want to do, of course, do it. But it's finding meaning in the everyday things that we can actually make practice to make ourselves better people. So, for example, in generosity, we might be generous in spirit. So we might actually give somebody a compliment where you might be just thinking it, and you know, something you actually say it.
Yeah.
Even if it's slightly embarrassing, or just go and say it, because you'll have upped somebody's day, do you know? So it might be giving something, that's the traditional way of generosity. It might be your time. So you might say this person is kind of hard work. But you know something, you can actually push yourself a little harder to have a little exercise in kindness, generosity of spirit, by just giving them time, or instead of jumping in with what you want to say, ask another question of what they want to say. You know?
And that naturally leads on into the second pillar, which is gratitude. It's being thankful for moments of generosity, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of, instead of, like with the kids, sometimes when I have them around the table at dinner time, I'd say, OK, let's everyone take a time to say, what are we all grateful for today? And of course, people at the beginning think, I'm grateful for my health, I'm grateful for my family and all the rest of it. And the things that sometimes you're not really grateful for until you lose it or you're at risk of losing it. Whereas I say, be grateful for the fact that the shirt that you wanted to wear today was clean and ironed, you know, and ready to go when you were dashing out the door.
The basics.
Yeah, be ready for the fact that you got 3 green traffic lights in a row when you were, when you were busy. That kind of stuff, the basic stuff. And if you try and make that a daily practice and say, I have to be grateful for something new each day, then your radar is on looking for new stuff to be grateful for.
Yeah.
You know?
I do say that to the kids at night, actually, going to bed. What was the best thing about today? And you'll often get quite a funny story that they would never naturally tell you. Yeah. You know, and you hear it then at bedtime when they're kind of, you know, trying to carve out a few extra minutes. And exactly, they're going to sleep with a smile on their face. But maybe that's a part B of that question. What were you really grateful for today?
Yeah, and I know, I mean, I've done it with the kids, and sometimes there's such thing as overkill as well.
Yeah.
I know. Once one of the kids...
We're all tired.
And once one of the kids turned to me and said, I'm grateful that tomorrow's Friday, because you always forget to ask us on a Friday.
Brilliant.
So that's real.
You know, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness, yeah.
Can we practice being patient, or sorry, patience? It might be simply actively getting back in touch with friends we might have lost touch with.
Yeah, and it isn't easy. It's sometimes easier to give forgiveness to somebody else, or tell somebody else about, you should forgive them, you should let it go. But when it happens to us, it's hard work, isn't it?
Yeah.
So even little by little, sometimes saying, actually at the moment, I can't forgive them, but I can try and say, I am willing to try and see it from their point of view. I don't agree with it, but I'm willing to try and see it from their point of view.
It's a step towards forgiveness.
That's all you can do. Sometimes it's the reality.
Something that I don't possess a lot of, patience.
Yeah.
That's a pillar.
Yeah, it is.
I need to build that pillar.
Yeah.
You need to work on that one.
I think just with kids as well, it's very easy to lose patience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that, like, I've found myself, when I think the first time I ever noticed I need to work on patience was I was standing at an ATM, just put the card in, and then the ads came up, and, the bank ads, and you're going, oh, come on, and you're going, they're probably about 3 or 4 seconds.
I know, yeah.
And I couldn't wait that
But we
long.
live in this instant world.
Exactly.
Where we just don't have time for that in our head.
Exactly. So it's learning to patience in a traffic jam, patience with the kids, and patience is hugely important. It isn't some kind of just kind of nicey thing. It is really connected to better health, better relationships, success in life. It is really important. And the way to do it is the tiny steps, the ordinary, mundane stuff. Waiting for the kettle to boil and actually saying, do you know something? I'll actually sit and watch it boil.
Yeah.
Having the moments, that's a bit of stillness in there as well, but just taking the time to practice patience.
Because as you say, stillness is in there as well as awe. But the one I like is humour.
Yeah.
Do we ever bring humour or warmth to each other's?
Yeah. And
Simon really needs to work on that one.
No, I do, yeah. That and patience.
Got it in spades. But do you know something? Do you know the way kind of, if you ask people, do you laugh as much as you used to when you were younger? And for most people, maybe not for you guys, but for most people, they'd say, definitely not. Life's got really serious.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it is noticing that thing. Or what I would say is, even because it really helps relationships, you start to chat better at night on the couch when you're watching TV. So sometimes I'd recommend to people, if you're choosing a film or something like that, and one is a thriller and the other's a comedy, just see what happens if you choose a comedy.
Yeah.
See, do things work out better for you?
Yeah.
Because you'll end up laughing, yeah.
Yeah.
And choose the people, I often think, who make you smile or laugh, or you have a certain warmth leaving them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think
Positivity.
sometimes... Yeah, definitely. So there will be people who drain you and people who you're maybe driving home afterwards and you've still got a smile on your face, do you know? So notice who they are and keep in touch with them. And sometimes also you're the one who's giving. So that's where the generosity comes in. You're the one who maybe needs to put a smile on somebody else's
Make
face.
them laugh, I told you. Make them laugh. Thank you, Susanna.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very
Thanks.
interesting indeed.